everybody, and welcome to Taking Control, the ADHD podcast on rashpixel.fm. I'm Pete Wright, and right over there is Nikki Kinzer.
Hello.
Hi.
Hi.
How are you?
It feels like I just haven't talked to you for so long.
I know, so long. Hey,
12 hours?
You know, I have to tell you, I don't know. It's my wife's birthday today.
I know. Happy birthday.
She's so
Peter's
sweet.
wife.
Peter's wife. She's so sweet. And we're the same age again, so that always makes my day brighter. But yesterday I had a photo shoot. I was asked to do a photo shoot of a delightful couple. This was their 50th anniversary wedding anniversary photo shoot. They wanted something to celebrate 50 years. And I've just been really thinking about that, like all of the time passing. And I sometimes don't do a very good job of celebrating passing time. And so, if you're listening to this, think about your long relationships because, 50 years, for example, it's a long time to be committed to one another.
It's something to be celebrated, project. For sure.
Yeah, it just really puts me in a warm space today.
Well, I have a warm story.
Do share. What's yours?
Yeah. Okay. So this morning I dropped off my son at school and I decided to go get a coffee. Mm-hmm. And it's at one of those fancy coffees. And that was my special treat to myself. But as I was driving, I was thinking about the world.
Oh, the world.
I know. And I was thinking about the political climate and I was thinking about some things that I saw in the news and I was kind of sad. Like I thought, it's just sad that we're so divided and that people have to fear or live in fear or I don't. So I was going through I was actually all over the place. I was even thinking about the Dalai Lama and like how peaceful he is.
As you do.
And I'm like, yeah. And I'm like, gosh, I want to be peaceful like that. Well, anyway, so I'm thinking about all these different things and I go into the little drive-through to get my coffee. I order my coffee. And you know what the lady says?
What'd she say?
The lady says, oh, your coffee's been paid for. And I'm like,
Aww.
What? And she goes, yeah, we're having, there's a pay it forward line going on today. Yeah. And I was just like, oh, that is so awesome.
That is so awesome.
Yeah, it was awesome. So of course, big old smile on my face. And I still paid for the coffee because now I paid it forward to somebody else. And I came home and I told my husband, I'm like, I don't know. Maybe I'm psychic. Maybe it was just a sign from the universe, from God, whatever you want to believe. But to me, that was something to pay attention to. I am not kidding you. Seconds before, I was sad. And then I get my coffee and it's a pay it forward line.
Yeah.
Seriously? I mean, there's kindness in this world, people.
Totally there is. Be that.
So it was just a nice thing.
There was a pay it forward line that went 4 days at a Starbucks locally here, and there's this guy got on when it was on the news. It made it to the news that there was a pay it forward line. How happy everybody was! It's great. And this guy heard about it, and he went and he got in his car and he drove through the drive-through, and he specifically said, "I am not paying for the person behind me," so that he could break the chain. What is that?
I don't know.
What is that? That is.
You just turned my happy story backwards.
Well, that's what I'm saying. This is let my story be a warning for others. Don't be that person. Celebrate Nikki's side. It's so happy and good.
Yeah.
Oh, jeez.
Yeah.
Sorry.
All right.
I'm the black cloud in your day now. I feel terrible. You know what? I'm going to buy your coffee.
Thank you. I'll buy yours too.
So we're going to be talking a little bit about value, the value we place on things today, like coffee, perhaps.
Like coffee, right.
But before we do that, head over to takecontroladhd.com, get to know us a little bit better, of course. Subscribe to the mailing list. You can subscribe to the show anywhere. Find podcasts or serve. You know the drill. And connect with us on Twitter or Facebook at Take Control ADHD. Our number, 503-664-48DD. We love those voicemails that we absolutely read on the show in our feedback Q&A episodes. So thank you so much for that. Okay, value.
Oh, and review. Did you talk about reviews?
Well, I have recently, but I think we've done it all out of order. So who knows when that's going to come up. But yes, reviews help. And there are 2 places now that you can do reviews. iTunes is obviously the big dog. The BMOC, Big Man on Campus, that's iTunes. And so if you head over to iTunes, if you like the show, we sure appreciate it if you'd go over and leave a review. Don't be that Starbucks guy, though, because honestly, that does nobody any good. It just feels bad when you go in and you say, oh, no, this podcast sucks. I'm going to take time out of my day to spread hate. And don't be that person. That's not good.
No,
if you like it. If you don't like it, go listen to something you like. That's all I'm saying. But that really helps. You can also, there are lots of great apps that have rating systems. Overcast is a fantastic app that I use. It's iOS only, so if you're an iOS user, check out Overcast. It's free and it's fantastic, and it has its own rating system. You can go in and recommend a podcast there, and they have their own tracking system, just like iTunes. The more people that rate and recommend, the easier it is for other people to find. So very, very helpful stuff if you like the show. We sure appreciate it. Okay, so value.
Value.
I've been thinking a lot about value. And mostly, I've been listening to the Minimalist podcast after you recommended it. Now I think it's been months since you recommended it, and you'd seen that documentary, and I had never seen it. So I started listening to these guys' podcasts. They're great. Their podcasts are really long, and so there's that. If you're not into long format podcasts, maybe there's other ways to get their information. But they have a great book, and it's all about the value in living with what you need and not more than that. And they had this conversation that got me thinking about the value that we assign to things, right? And so the way I look at the things in my life, there are three sorts of value levels. There's the explicit value of the thing that we have, right? That this is the purpose that the thing serves, right? Here's a bottle, and inside that bottle, there's root beer. And so the explicit value of that thing is that it holds my root beer. There is the implicit value, which is the thing that the thing represents. Thankfully, that bottle is containing the root beer so that I can drink it, and that gives me satisfaction, and so there is value there. And plus, there's a in the explicit value, there's monetary value to it, right? I can turn it in for 5 cents or whatever. And all this can
if you live in Oregon.
Yeah, right, if you live in Oregon. This can lead to invented value. And this is where I get tripped up. Invented value is the aspirational value of that thing. Now, in a bottle of root beer, that's may not be worthy of conversation. So let's look at another example. I'm thinking about like a university expansion, right? Let's say we're on our university campus. We want to build a new dorm. The explicit value of that dorm is like the cost of construction and materials and staff and maintenance and financial chargebacks and all sorts of things. Increased beds to house more students. This is all the value that it brings to the institution. And then there's the implicit value. It makes the campus more beautiful. It improves recruiting potential. It improves satisfaction in residents' life, right? There are the things that we can't necessarily touch, but it's how we feel about a thing. And then, and beyond that, I'm not sure if there's an invented value in that discussion, but we know what the explicit and implicit value is. So now let's look at my hammer example. So the explicit value of a hammer in this ADHD context, this is where I get tripped up, so stay with me. The explicit value of the hammer might be $45, right? Let's say I'm buying a really nice hammer, and the function of the hammer, right? It hammers and removes nails from wood, okay? So that's the explicit value. The implicit value, it moves toward completing a robust tool collection for me, right? It makes me more useful in my capabilities as a handyman. Right?
Yes.
But then we have this invented value. I'm walking through Home Depot, and I see a hammer, and I think to myself, I've always wanted to be a handyman. In spite of having no natural talent or training as a handyman whatsoever, I have watched shows about handyman, and I think that if I had this hammer, I could be a handyman. Therefore, this must be of high value to me. I'm going to buy it. That is my invented value trap. I fall into this trap a lot.
I have an example.
You do? Oh, I totally want to hear it. What is your example?
I'm going through the home store and I'm going through the organizing products section.
Yes, you do.
And I see all of these bins and these hangers and special organizing tools that are going to get me organized. They even say on the label, it says, get organized, or this is going to organize your closet.
My God, right? That's a siren call for you.
So I'm really believing that this organizing bin is going to solve all of my problems. And so I buy it.
Yeah, because if it says get organized on the bin, then clearly you are not organized now. right?
Well, yeah, and this bin's going to get me that way.
Exactly. This bin's going to answer the question. And so that is what that's exactly the context I struggle with this in, that invented value. It's a trap, right? I fall into it around not just stuff that I buy, right? Stuff I acquire, but in training and education. You know what? I always wanted to be smarter. I think I'll start paying for a lynda.com subscription. I've always wanted to get fit. I think I'll join a gym and pay 2.5 years up front, right? I think I've always wanted to do this or that in my office. I need, $2,000 in gear, or my goodness, subscriptions to like entertainment services. Yeah, I've always wanted to watch that show, but it's only on HBO. I better start a monthly subscription for that. And before you know it, I'm paying through the nose monthly, and I've never really put any thought to those kinds of things.
Exactly. And I just want to hit on something that you kind of alluded to, was not only just the products that you're buying, but the emotional aspect of what we're talking about too. If I just found the right guy or the right woman, I would be happy. Right. If I just made more money, I would be happy. If I had a bigger house, I would be happy. If I had this, I would have that.
Right.
And so there's a lot of that going on too, I think, that people fight with internally.
Well, and this is my question for you from the ADHD context. My hypothesis is, my theory is that the reason I struggle so much with it is because I get distracted from the process of thinking through data when when the question is answered internally through emotion, right? I move on so quickly to the process of being satisfied enough by invented value that I've moved on. I've satisfied my need for inquiry because it feels so good. I got the dopamine push, and now I don't even stop to think about the implicit or explicit value reality of this new thing. It's just, hey, I've just pushed a button and satisfied a need, and now I can move on to this lollipop that's sitting on my desk.
Oh, I think you're absolutely right, because you want that instant gratification, and that's definitely part of ADHD. It's one of the reasons why rewards often don't work if the reward is not instant. And so you'll hear, we've talked about this before, that if you're trying to do a task that you've been avoiding, instead of going about it in the way that, okay, if I do this task, I get this reward, you actually want to try to do the reward as you're doing the task, or make sure it's something that you're getting pretty quickly, because that is what is driving your brain. I mean, you want that. You want that instant gratification.
Well,
so you're right.
And that's exactly what I was thinking. That's what I was hoping you were going to say. I was crossing my fingers, because that's certainly what I experience, right? I mean, that's certainly what I do when I go through life. And so I'm trying to think of the stages of sort of awareness of becoming, woke to this tragedy of the invented value trap. And my thought is this, at least for me, if this helps somebody else, please try it. First, I have to figure out how it manifests, right? I have to understand it better before I can change it. And that requires mindfulness. It requires me going around and looking at my house and looking at my office and looking at my email for, subscription services and assessing them at a level that is very difficult to do with ADHD, right? It's a challenge to stop and think for any period of time about something that's hard to look at, but it's really important. And so, in that interest, I, in the spirit of sort of digital, which this episode really isn't, I did a quick spreadsheet, and I went through all of my email subscriptions for the last month of all the receipts for subscription services that I have for me and my family. And I put them in a spreadsheet, and that took all of about 4 hours, actually, because I went into like hyper-focus mode, and I didn't come up. I
was going to say, wow, 4 hours. That's a long time.
No, I didn't eat, and that's okay. But I needed to know the answer to this, right? And I just figured it out. And you know what I came up to? Like, annualized, I've got subscriptions. I've got, over the course of a year, I've got $500 in storage services for me and my family, like backup, iCloud, Dropbox, those kinds of services. I've got over $500 in software subscriptions, like Microsoft subscription, Office subscription, Adobe, Text Expander, right? Those things. I've got over $1,000 annually in entertainment subscriptions. That's like Netflix and Hulu and Showtime, right? Those things that just kind of get bundled. And like looking at that, that's over the course of a year, it's over $2,000 in subscription services. And I guarantee you, I have not given it $2,000 worth of thought. Like that's a down payment on a good car.
Point. Right, right.
And I need a car. So, so this audit ended up being really important in spite of the fact that I lost 4 hours of my life in the process of doing it. And so, the effort here now that it's documented is to do step 2, which is the declutter, right? And is to figure out, like, to go back and retroactively put the thought into these things, right? Do I really need all of these services? And if I really do, can I justify them financially? Am I actually paying for them, with intention? Do I use them at the level of what I'm paying for? Do I need the hammer because I've used it maybe that one time to remove that one nail from that one board? Would it be better and served in the hands of somebody else that I can pass it on and get it out of my house? Realizing that when I have to do a project around the house, I usually hire help to help me get through it in the first place, right? Is to go through that declutter process. And finally, once you're sort of aware of and gone through the decluttering, then I just have to plug the waiting period, and that is to try to stop acting on emotion. And my experience is that becomes easier once you have done the audit and the decluttering, because you're aware of the pain that it has caused, but still enormously challenging to stay present in that process when the bin is screaming, get organized, as you're walking through the store, right?
You know what? The word that caught my attention?
What?
Is when you said intention.
Yeah.
Attention, intention.
All of those tensions.
It like rhymes. Yeah. Yeah. But that's really important. I mean, I think because you're saying I have to put thought into this. I need to be more aware of it. And I need to really understand what my intention is. And so I think, just to add to what you've already said, is that to keep remembering what is your intention, when you are thinking that you need something or you want something or something's going to make something better, really sit and think about that. What's your intention here?
Right.
What are those values?
And I think that's the lesson is you don't have to be like, I found myself being hard on myself, right? I was really judging.
Really?
I was thinking, God,
you were judging?
I am ridiculous. Look at how stupid I am. Yeah. Yeah, it was so easy to do because you lose sight of it. Like I say, that's over $2,000 a year, and I am shocked and awed. And oh my gosh, sir, I am a
How did I do that?
Yeah, how did I do that? But then you look at the monthly expense, right? It's about $170 a month, which is about a normal cable bill. It's not. It doesn't feel like that much money. I don't have cable. We don't pay for cable TV. This is kind of that replacement, our entertainment expense and services. I run a business out of my house. Like it's important for me to have some of these services, but and so I'm able to go back and really think about it. And I did find 3 or 4 of these things that I just don't use. I don't live up to, and I can cancel them and feel good about it. It doesn't matter when you put the intention to it. If you're trying to correct this course, it matters that you do. Right. That's really the message. And I did go through and I thought of just 2 other elements as we wrap up here. First is just to put a budget to things like this, right? If it's more than a certain price point, impose a save rule. Like if it's more than $15 and you're walking through the store, then maybe you don't get to buy it. You have to wait monthly. If it's a subscription service, maybe you force yourself to save a certain period of payments, like a year or 6 months, and you don't get to start that subscription until you have those payments saved up. And if you still want it after you have those payments saved up, then go ahead and get it. If you find you still need it, that might be a trigger rule that'll allow you to kind of do that. And the other is, of course, a perennial favorite around these parts, the accountability partner. Find someone you can talk to through a purchase, with a spouse, a partner, a friend. Make the case for why you need it and why you need it now, and see if you can get them to agree. And if they're on your side, maybe that is your benchmark for being able to go and buy this thing and add it to your life. And impose the ban on the invented value syndrome, IVS.
I love it.
Yeah.
I love it. And where my takeaway is on this is that I know that I get really wrapped up into my own business. Like I'll see something it's a program or online course or something that costs money, and I'm going to listen to what you just said here. I'm going to actually think about, what is the value here? Does it make sense? Talk to somebody about it and walk through these steps before making that decision.
Yeah, I think that's good. And I feel like it's a good thing to keep in front of my mind too. And so, thanks to the minimalists for starting me on this path. Sure appreciate that inspiration. And they have a good show. So if you've got a long commute, check them out. Mm-hmm. But not until after you review us.
Well, and what was funny is when I was listening to him last weekend, I was going through paper piles.
There you go.
So it was perfect because they were talking about decluttering and this minimalist lifestyle as I'm, getting rid of paper. So
there you go.
Yeah, it's always fun to listen to when you're organizing.
Always fun. Thank you, everybody.
But we are too.
Yeah, we are too.
We are too. We're great inspirations with that.
Thank you, everybody, for downloading and listening to this show, for your time, and most importantly, for your attention. On behalf of Nikki Kinzer, I'm Pete Wright. We'll catch you next time right here on Taking Control, the ADHD podcast.